And here we are once again in my basement. So this whole thing really started with this bad boy. This is a old-fashioned drill, and this one has this really cool kind of stock looking thing on it. And the first thing I thought of when I saw this was the Fallout 4 laser musket, where you crank it up and then it kind of glows and fires. And so I wanted to create a weapon around this thing. And then I was lucky enough to go to an antique store near me and find this bad boy. This is a old rifle stock. I don't think I can get the full thing in frame here, but this thing's just really neat, and I set this on there and it fit perfectly. I mean, look at that. So then I thought, okay, I guess I'm really gonna make this. And so then I was thinking, well, what am I gonna do for a barrel? I had these PVC pipes here, and I was putting it on there. And I was like, I don't really like the look of that. Then I looked around the basement more, and I found this from an old vacuum. And it looks perfect. And so then, of course, I want this thing to light up when you crank it. But I'm not gonna put a battery in it, you know. I have this weird obsession with making things that are real, I guess, or that function how they seem to function. And so I found this thing. This is an old magneto from a telephone, and one of those old crank style telephones. You crank it up and it puts out power, and this looks awesome. And I even found these threaded things that thread onto here, and so it could fit in the chuck of this, but it just didn't put out any power, which is unfortunate. Just gonna have to go to a more normal motor to do the power, which, I kind of figured I'd have to anyways. I don't know if it was the difference between AC and DC, because there's AC, but I really don't know. And what's gonna light up I have a bunch of radio tubes. I found these ones. These ones are awesome looking, but the bottom is not clear, so they can't light up, which is sad, but I'll definitely use these for something else. These are really cool looking. But I do have are these bad boys, these little tubes. And I got sockets for them. The sockets have a little, you can't really see, but they have a little hole through them. There you go. They have a little hole through them, so you can put a light in them. And this kind of gives it a more clean look. So the barrel is going to have these kind of sticking out like that, going down it, kind of like a bunch of the energy weapons from New Vegas, like the Lair, I think it's called, and there's a few other ones that have glowing radio tube looking things sticking out of them. But to get it to stick out of there, I need to drill a hole through this. And I think that's the most challenging part of this project. I did get this drill bit, and I have a whole kind of weird plan of how to hold this down so I can drill it. That'll work. Another one, kind of a angle. I'll redo that one. You ever need to get Sharpie off of something? Hand sanitizer takes it right off. Kind of like that. Might be too close together though. I might move it over a smidge. I actually left a little bit on there this time so I can actually really tell where I need to put the line. I don't know if I want to do 3 or 4. I think I'll go for 4. So that one. I think that line's crooked. Real entertaining stuff here. Drawing lines on a, yeah, that line's definitely crooked. Drawing lines on a aluminum tube. This is what you watch YouTube for, right guys? Looks a little bit more straight, I think. Actually, I have. Aha. That way they'll actually be in line with each other. Look at that. Big brain. It was too flat. I need like a random cheap watch saves the day. And there you have it, the most fun part of doing this, marking out the lines. I found a dowel rod that's about the same size as this thing. And I shoved it down in there. That'll hopefully keep it from like denting and deforming while I'm doing stuff. And also help with the drilling. That way, once the drill bit gets through the metal, instead of just like being in midair and kind of wiggling around, it'll bite into the wood and keep on going. Because my biggest worry with this thing is that I don't want to really dent it or deform it too much, because it's like a perfect round shape, and I don't think I could really bend this stuff back into place like I could with these things on the arm. Should probably get this all in the vise actually before I do this. So we have the dowel rod going through it, and then I use these pipe clamps to clamp it to this 2x4 because I didn't want to get like vise marks on this, and this is just like a square jaw vise, so it can grip into this wood way better than it could grip into this round metal. And also just to grip it hard enough that it wouldn't move around, it would crush it or mess it up in some way. So now, there you have some little holes. They're not exactly in line, but I think it'll be fine because this drill bit is slightly larger than the this black part, so it can move around a bit. And even then, the black part is a little bit smaller than the actual silver part, so if needed, I can file the hole. I still have a little bit of tolerance there. Alright, so I did the first one off camera to make sure it works, and it totally works. Look at that. That worked perfectly. Very glad I used this dowel rod. I thought this was going to be the hardest part of the project, and that worked pretty easily, so that means something's going to go wrong with the electronics. So I'm just sticking these on here right now with some white tack. That way I can kind of see what it looks like when the whole thing is together with all of the tubes on it. This thing is so cool. This looks even more awesome than I imagined it looking. So I've attached the drill to the stock here. It's free to rotate. And I just used some pipe clamps. This one was really hard to put on there. It kind of snakes through the gear, and that is definitely not going to try to take that off. And this one on the back is just kind of helping to hold it in place. And what I plan to do is get a belt from my massive pile of belts and put a belt kind of around. I mean, look at that. That's going to look so cool. I also have this piece, and that's going to attach there as a butt plate. And I'm probably going to have to glue that on, but I think that is really going to help tie it together with the once the silver barrel's on there. And look at it, it looks like it was made for this. So we got the barrel, we got the drill. Now what is going to happen in between? I found a lot, that was 3 of these things. I don't know what they are. Neither does the guy who sold them know what they are. Some kind of radio tube thing, but one of them had no internals. Got it here. It's gonna go there, but it looks kind of weird sticking up like this compared to the barrel. So I'm going to cut it so it kind of fits down over. So it's going to be about like that. And then the motor and everything will go in this. You may also notice there is a gap between these two. You'll see what I do with that. Alright, I got this all chopped up. I kind of absolutely massacred it with these tin snips here, but it's not exactly a nice clean edge, but it'll work. And it just slots on like that. Sits there quite nicely. I also made this. This is a piece of a office chair. Perfect size to be the magazine. Look at that. So here is the general idea of what I'm going to do with this empty space. Ignore that, that's just, I didn't want to cut this down yet. So I'm just going to have some pipes and conduits and things coming out of the barrel into here, and then to fill up the extra empty space in here, I'm going to have pieces coming out of the magazine, kind of going up and over and kind of going in there too. I have the trigger there, and I don't really know what these things are. I have a whole bag of them, but I took these bits and kind of folded them so that it's going through the pipe clamp there, and it's folded over, and then I just kind of bent and smacked and shaped it till it's about trigger shaped, and I'm going to glue it into place too because it's a bit wonky. And I also have the trigger guard, which fits over like that. I think that looks pretty good. This is a piece off of this thing. I don't really know what this is. Maybe it was some kind of like wall hanging thing, because it wasn't originally this shape. It had a really weird curvy shape, but I chopped it off and bent it and hacked at it. That won't really be visible. So I got this kind of shaft collar thing for the motor so that the drill could grip onto it. But unfortunately, this was too short for this thing. It didn't stick out far enough. So I got this little standoff. And it just screws into there like that. And there you go. Alright, so these sockets have a hole in them because they're designed to have an LED shine through, but the hole is too small for the LED that I have, so I'm going to drill out a bigger hole. Alright, so I just did something kind of stupid. I had this on the end of the drill here, and so I grabbed it like that, and I spun the drill, and it got a big gash in my finger. It's not really, you know, this kind of a thin little thing, so it's not very deep or wide, but it was bleeding. But now that the blood sacrifice is complete, hopefully this project will go a bit smoother. Well, that was way harder than drilling through the metal, but I got it done. I did unfortunately shatter one of them. This is actually the one that cut my finger. So, yeah. Alright, so the butt plate here kept falling off. The glue just wouldn't stick good enough. So I just screwed it on there. And you can see it's actually like fit to the body of it better than it was with just the glue, because this one was kind of bent out, but the screw kind of pulled it in. Alright, so I got the electronics all done up. Originally I wired these in series and they were pretty dim, so I rewired them in parallel, and as you can see, boom, works, and it is much brighter than it was before. Alright, I got these all epoxied up. These ones I did yesterday, these ones I just did. These two, the light wasn't quite centered, or it wasn't high enough or something, so it's kind of pushing up on the socket, so I have to clamp it down. A couple of these ones did that same thing and they turned out fine. So, and as you can see, all of the lights work. So to cover that rear pipe clamp, got this belt on here, and it is on extremely tight. I even cut a slot for this piece of the pipe clamp to come through, and I got it on there about as tight as it could get. And then the offcut from here, using to make the butt plate, and that is currently gluing on there, and that's why it is in the vise like this. I'm Got all the sockets glued on, got all the tubes in there, and alright, so it's pretty much done. This isn't attached up, but I've just been fighting with kind of these bits there for the last few hours, pretty much all day. And I managed to get the motor in right, because I was having this problem where the motor would kind of wiggle around while I was turning it because it wasn't perfectly in line. So I took, and you can kind of see it down in there, some dowel rod and kind of shoved it under the motor, and now it is buttery smooth. So here it is, complete. This thing is just so awesome. Very satisfying to crank. The crank's really smooth. I managed to get that motor going smoothly. I was worried it wouldn't go smoothly because it was kind of wonky, but just look at it. So cool. And it's done. So in the last video where I made my steampunk arm, I kind of had a lesson at the end, and it was, you know, just go out and make stuff. And this one I also have a lesson. It's that nothing is too difficult. You know, if you have some idea and you're like, well, I have no idea how to do that, just go for it. Look into it, do it. I didn't think I was going to be able to drill through this tube. It worked fine. I didn't think I'd get all the electronics and everything to work. Works perfectly. So really, you should stop putting off projects because you don't have an idea of how to do them. Because I had no idea how I was going to make this when I started making this. You got to experiment. You got to get out there and just start bashing stuff together. And most of all, have fun doing it. Now for the hard part though, where do I put this? I gotta work there, also there, the mecha spider's there, my arm goes there, there's not really room over here, that's a freezer, that's also a freezer. Well, guess next I'll have to build like a rack for this or something.